Peace, everyone. Hopefully, you can hear me. And if you can hear me, please just put a one in the chat. One will suffice if I'm audible. Sorry, I'm just setting up my screen here real quick. So, okay. So, yeah, if you can hear me, one. All right, cool. There we go. Once I see the one, then I know. Then I know I'm in business. But don't like to say too much before I get to one because I could be talking to myself. All right, cool. So let's give me a second. I was doing some things, but yeah. I will that everyone's day was cool today. I see all the ones. Give thanks. Thank you. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. Thank you kindly. Um, yeah, man. I hope everybody had a safe day today, and wherever you had to get to, if you weren't on time, you know that it was for a good reason. All right. Sometimes that synchronicity we got to pay close attention to. I know I said in this session I wanted to have like more visuals, but honestly I just didn't get a no, I'm lying. I did get an opportunity to do it. I just didn't do it. I don't get to lying. People always like I didn't have time to do it. We have a lot of time that we lie about. So I almost said a lie. I had time to do it. I didn't do it. So instead of having visuals, I'm just gonna do like I did last time, and we're gonna walk through it. Because, like I told you, when we get into the second scene of 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is what we've been going on, not second scene, second act, I would say. Um, Visuals are key. Now, of course, they were key in the last one too, because there was no dialogue really, except for some grunts and some howls and things like that. But there's not a lot of dialogue in this movie at all. So, um, Kubrick really, like I said, really used an artistic brush to really outline some of what he was doing in terms of, the feelings that he was trying to create through the music. Like you heard me talk about the score a million times because it was just awesome, but through the music and also through the visual elements, right? So where we left off last time, we have Moonwatcher who had just regained his space back, his watering hole back for his tribe, and now it's more lush. We of course have the presence of the obelisk. Let me see. I have some notes I'm gonna pull up. Um, should I? Yeah, I don't want to go too far into the breakdown, so I have a kind of a place where I want to stop. So that's why I have my notes in front of me. Um, there we go. Yeah. So he was able to regain or reclaim rather his watering hole for his tribe, and at the end of that scene, we see him throw the bone up in the air. Now, of course, we went through some of this last time. He goes into the bones, and the bones represent, you know, um, his conquering over death, but also his conquering over what was before, right? A lot of times we get really caught up in what was done before. We get caught up in history, we get caught up in ancestral sort of activities, and we feel like we have to repeat everything ancestors did. And one of the things that was brought out in this film, I mean, not brought out, but you notice is that had he had not learned how to evolve, not just adapt, but evolve to what was coming next, he would not have lived. His species would have died out. Even though part of his attackers were his own, but he had the leopards and all these other elements, and not being able to get food and whatnot, and maybe not even enough water that would have eventually taken him out. So he had to become something totally different than what he was in order to go to the next step. And that involved killing, that involved using tools, that involved eating meat, that even involved interacting with this obelisk, which was or this monolith as it's often called, which was completely foreign to him. Now, the thing I want you to keep in mind about the monolith. Imagine if it was a screen. I want you to look at it like it was a screen. The same way you pick up your phone, not my phone, but the same way you pick up a phone and you look at this dark screen and you wait. Oh, here we go with the with the sex offers. That was early in, that was real early in. But yeah, so what you and do me a favor, moderators, if you can actually not just delete the message, you can block them. They come back, but anyway, so he had to become something different, like I said. But if you could look at the monolith as an actual screen, because when you read the book, and like I said, I try not to really go into the book too much because it's kind of not fair because we're breaking down the movie. But it was described as a screen. Now, the reason I say that is because going into this next act, I want you to kind of put in your mind the idea of something being projected, right? Whether it's an idea or whatever. But either way, the monolith taught Moonwatcher, or taught this prehistoric man, if you will, through visuals and sound. No different than how you might watch a video and learn something that may evolve you, okay? But like I said, where we left off, he uses the bone, he kills someone, and him smashing the head and smashing the bones of what was dead, of course, represented him moving past an old era, him moving past something that no longer was applicable. Sometimes it's hard for us, you watch a lot of different films like Clash of the Titans, or even you study different mythologies. You have people like Prometheus, you have people like Apollo, you have people like Zeus, and a lot of times there's this or even Odysseus, which is important because the name of this movie is 2001: A Space Odyssey. That word Odyssey is very important because this movie is actually a mirror reflection. Keep in mind, mirror. If you write the notes, write the word mirror down. Mirrors, reflections, screens are very important in this movie. But the Odyssey, this is like an updated form of the Odyssey written by Homer, right? So I want you to keep in mind that word Odyssey, we're going to come back to that, right? Or what an Odyssey is. But, you have a lot of times these different stories where individuals who are serving a certain deity at some point seek to destroy or kill that deity or do away with that deity as a part of their evolution, as a part of their next step in their journey, right? So you have an element of that, and it keeps repeating. We're going to get into where we see it repeating again, right? So this particular scene ends with, and I just want to, again, this is Chief Yuya, anybody tuning in for the first time. And I want to welcome everyone who's in the chat. I saw all the pieces, so peace to you all, everybody in the chat and whatnot, and everybody who is going to come in, a little bit later. So yeah, we left our last scene with him throwing the bone in the air, right? Now, the bone, of course, is a tool. And one of the things that you heard me say before is that he used the inner in order to affect the outer, right? That's a basic metaphysical principle. So the bone was something that was once inside of the body, and it represented an inner sensitivity, because it's a bone, it's inside, it's sensitive. That's why it's covered and hidden by flesh. And he used that inner sensitivity or that inner knowing in order to affect and survive on the outside. That's why I've often said for a long time that, children who play instruments typically just have much greater wisdom and intuition than children who don't, because you start to you learn certain sensitivities. It's similar to martial arts. Everything isn't punching hard and kicking hard and kia. That people who fight like that don't last long anyway because it's just too hard on your body, and there's just too much ego in all of that. But it's those soft arts, So whether you're sensing the punch coming, or you might be grappling with someone and you can feel that they're getting ready to try to sweep your leg, or they're getting ready to try to swim and come underneath your armpit and grab you and hook you, you develop a certain kind of sensitivity. And you get the same thing with music. That's why music again was such a key piece to this. And desensitization was also a key piece in this movie. You're going to see the desensitizing in the beginning with the primates or the prehistoric man. What you witnessed was everything was based on, oh, they back again, cheapest sex dating. Everything was based on, and these are like people from another country. I mean, I don't mean like sound like that, but it's like nobody would click on this. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody. I'm a man. I mean, I like it as much as the next man, but I wouldn't click on that. You know what I'm saying? That's not even like enticing. Just a bunch of emojis with a tongue out. You know what I'm saying? That's like by somebody who created a bot that doesn't really understand English and the culture. So it's like, yeah, just put a bunch of curse words and a bunch of emojis. We'll make all the money. We'll make a lot of money. But anyway, so so what we have again is with the screens and the monoliths, we have this teaching that's being brought forth in order for them to evolve. And like I said, those sensitivities you'll find in music and things like that, because it allows you to navigate through the world with a certain rhythm that you may not have had. Oh, the How Bot, you laugh at those ads from How. The How Bot has already gotten me on Twitter. This How Bot's already up there. So I got a couple notes. But anyway, so like I said, he throws the bone up in the air. And if you pay it like close attention, the direction that he spins the bone then becomes this station, this small station that's in space. So what it's showing is that, obviously early man, and then we've evolved to now that we are in outer space. We're in the heavens, right? That's our next step, right? But if you notice, the shape of the tool, which is the ship, still looks like a bone. That rocket, that mission rocket, still looks like a bone. So there's obviously there's something that's being shared there for you in terms of like what's implanted in terms of our intelligence, and kind of like where we think we may grow so far beyond. Sometimes that's a common thing. People think that what they're doing is new. It's nothing new under the sun, but everyone just thinks that their journey is so unique and so amazing, and no one can understand it. No one has gone down this path before. And those are people typically who do not look at mythology. When you read a lot of mythology, you will, like I often say, it's a mirror. You will find yourself. So when you start reading a lot of mythology, you see yourself and you say, oh, wow, okay. That left turn that I just took, somebody already took that. That right, somebody took it. So let's look at some of the different possibilities that could turn into. So when you see that ship in the same shape of the bone, it's like, oh, you really haven't evolved that much. Which we're gonna get into. You're still, like I've often said, everything that's pretty much invented in the West looks like a penis, right? Even guns look like a penis. Everything's a penis. They're now even they're refining cars more to look like penises. It's got to be smooth. It's got to be sleek. Get rid of the edges. Just make it a big black tube. That would be the most aerodynamic. Okay, gotcha. Like a gun, like a gun. Like a cannon, like a cannon. Exactly. So and when does it shoot out? No, I mean cannonballs, bullets. So you start to understand that a lot of what's happening, even within inventions, are really rituals, right? And media is used in order to outline the ritual. When we looked at Moonwatch and learning how to use that bone, we looked at a Masonic rite. That was a Masonic rite that he was going through, right? Even when you look at the beginning of the film and you see the lion from the studio, what is the lion telling you? The lion is telling you And that, like, when you look at MGM Studios and you see that Lion roar, it's telling you now whatever you're getting ready to watch has something to do with the elite, because the lion represents what? Royalty. So this has something to do with the elite, right? So you might say, but the movie didn't even start yet. The movie started. The movie started when the actors were chosen, right? Because they're a part of the ritual. Then you have to go to the movie posters. A lot of times you'll notice that the movie posters will have scenes that are not in the movie, right? You thinking it's one thing and it's another thing, and that's because there's a certain ritual that people are trying to achieve, even through that visual element, right? So what we're really looking at is a Masonic rite, and I'll get into what's happening in a minute. So again, like I said, we spoke about the monoliths that were put on the earth 4 million years ago, and there were several ones put, the one was put. Now, in the book, if you read the book, I saw Master Menelek say he started listening to the audiobook. In the audiobook, it will tell you that one of the monoliths was put on Saturn. So there was one put on the planet Earth, another one on the moon, another one on Saturn, and like I said, another one in the fifth dimension, right? But the thing about it is that the reason they didn't use Saturn in the movie is because, according to what Kubrick said, or the people around Kubrick, is because the rings of Saturn were too difficult to do in terms of special effects. So they chose Jupiter instead of Saturn. Just know this. It's kind of like the movie Tropical Thunder, where Robert Downey, I think it was Robert Downey, he never like really broke character. And like when people watched the movie, they thought he was, a Moor for the whole. Even I was watching, I thought he, until he took the nose off and the lips, But it's kind of like that in Hollywood. The movie never stops. Okay, so even when you're watching the director's cut and stuff, you're like, oh, now I'm going to get the inside. You're not going to get the inside, because just like any artist, you want your work to live forever, So, like I said, we now get to a point where humans are now journeying in the sky. But what you'll find is that they're still very crude and very primitive, even though they've been able to assail the skies. Now, there's a couple of symbols. What I'm going to get into, because we're breaking this down into 5 parts. I don't want to just say this happened to happen to happen to happen. I'm going to break down some of the symbols and then we'll go back. Because honestly, this is a movie that you probably won't really begin to be able to like, all right, I got this, until you watch it for about like 12 times. Honestly, you got to watch it at least 12 times before you can have any kind of authority with it, to be honest with you. The first time I watched it, I got stuck at certain points. One of the things that I got stuck with, and we're talking about, I watched it way back in the days, right? But the first thing I got stuck on was the lack of realism in the scenes. There was a lot of scene incontinuity. There was a lot of that. Wherein like things were not the right size and stuff like that. The angles of light were off. There were things where like things were moved in certain scenes. So I was like, because Stanley Kubrick had did The Shining, before this. The Shining, that was like a amazing film with Shelley Duvall and Jack Nicholson. Like that was a big film. You know what I mean? And he said rubbish. And so I knew like what he was capable of, but there was so many rituals. We're going to get into one like later. I'm not going to tell it in this part, but I'm going to give you this part 5 of this breakdown. It's going to be a bonus, and it's going to be very interesting. You're going to want to watch part 5. It's going to be very interesting. I decided not to tell you before, but 2001 was a long ritual, because also in 1984 they came out with 2010, the year we made contact, which was the sequel to this movie. The ritual just kept going, and it's still gone. So anyway, so like I said, now we find they're assailing the skies. We get all of these different scenes of, outer space that are off. They're off, as far as like, and I'm not talking about like how things really look, because I don't really know how the planets really look, but the light angulations are off, right? So where they have the sun in certain parts, the light angulation that's on the planet, which you still don't see any continents, still no continents, still no rotation, right? But the light angulation that's on the planet doesn't line up with the ship that's right next to it. It's a totally different angulation, right? So you're like, is there multiple suns? Like, what the heck is going on? So these are the things when I first watched, I'm like, that don't look right. So something look off. something wrong with this movie, And like I said, you got to watch it a few times before you kind of figure out what the heck is happening. And I can tell you what's happening is a ritual. Things are off on purpose, right? And it's only the adept that's supposed to be able to catch it. So it's very similar to like when somebody's running con, right? When somebody's running con, one of the things they'll do a lot of times is they'll, like, let's say if it's an email or it's a post or a posting or a meme where you could sign up for something. A lot of times what people will do is they'll put purposeful spelling errors and typos inside of the posting or inside of the letter or inside of the email, because that's supposed to be for people who may not be as thorough, may not give as much attention to detail. That's the ones they want to catch, right? So somebody who pays attention to detail, like, how you selling houses and you spelled mortgage wrong, that doesn't. Nah, I'm not messing with you, right? But then there'll be the others who'll be like, oh, they said you could get a mortgage, you ain't got to pay for the first 12 months, and you can get $10,000 back. I'm signing up for it. That's the one they want. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing in certain films. Certain times you'll see certain inconsistencies, and the inconsistencies are a flag for the adept to let you know, like, don't believe this. It's very similar to in the beginning when the primates or the prehistoric man saw the monolith. First of all, there's a couple things there. Africa doesn't look like that. Africa didn't look like that back then. Africa back then was all jungle. That's why you even have flood lines on the Nebu or the Great Sphinx. So even the Egyptian desert, or the Kemetic desert was all lush area at one point, right? Why is it desert now, right? Some might say that it was cursed because of something else that happened beneath it. Some might say. And others might just give you some scientific reason that makes no sense. So the thing is, so what happened was you start to look at these inconsistencies and you realize, okay, this is something I'm supposed to look at with multiple eyes. And how I would normally break it down is not how I'm supposed to do it. Okay. So so Deidre said, I'm just reading chat. I wonder if they used Jupiter because it was ritual for the Roman deity Jupiter, a placement of the sky god in the film, purposely steering away from the true creator. Well, they could have still used Saturn and said that. They could have still used Saturn as a sun god and still went in the same direction. Okay, so let me show you how you do that, right? If that's a road that you want to go down, you have to look at the chart, the astrological chart for that particular time when the movie came out. And I mean, literally the day the movie came out. So you could look up, like, if someone was born on that day, look up the day the movie was released, the year, so forth and so on, what would their zodiac be, and then do the chart. And that will tell you what energy was prominent at that time. That's how you do it. So again, when you're doing studies like that, you always want to look at what's going on at this time, and of course, who's being spoken to and who's speaking. A New Life Global Ministry says, even when they show the alignment of the sun, earth, and moon, it's strange because you can see the light reflecting on the back of the moon, even though in the scene, the sun is far away. Exactly. So it showed. I think I brought that out the first point, and I think I gave that. I said I wasn't going to tell y'all, but I did tell y'all, maybe. But yeah, there's two light sources. Exactly, there's two light sources, but you always see that alignment of this of the sun moon star or the sun moon monolith, right? Which is again, so that's a ritual within itself. That's an Osirian ritual, right? So that's saying once that's aligned, then creation can come forth. We're going to get into that, right? So again, we see these moon scenes, right? And they're going through this. They have this centrifugal, and it's a really interesting idea, actually, which we haven't really seen in movies since. To simulate gravity, they have this space station that's spinning. So basically, you see a guy, he's running on it, he's walking around, and of course, that centrifugal force of it spinning is keeping him planted. Now, of course, then you see the scene with the stewardess as well, where she's wearing the shoes that allow her to stick to the floor, right? All of this is very important. This is very important because I'll jump around a little bit. You'll see this the scene where okay, they have to spin the station so they can move and they can have gravity and so forth. And then you see her with the shoes. She's walking all slow, as she's going because they don't have any gravity. But then when you see them in the boardroom later speaking, they're walking around like everything's cool, like they have gravity. So the question is, was that a mistake by Kubrick? Did he forget, like, oh, they're still on the station, so they're supposed to be, the police walking on the moon, right? They're supposed to still be doing that, or was he trying to tell you something else? Now, let me get into the something. I'm gonna give you a couple of things that could play with your psyche a little bit. Um, this movie came out in 1968, right? And the first supposed moon landing was in 1969. So this movie depicted what the moon would have been like. You see, even later in the film, where they find the second obelisk or the second monolith, and they dig it out of the Tycho moon crate. I think they called it Tycho TMA1. They dig it out of there, right? Now, at this time in history, quote unquote, no one had stepped on the moon as of yet. So there was a long-standing theory that the moon was actually the surface of it was primarily just dust. So if you would step on it, you would basically just fall down to the core of it, right? So they created this really elaborate moon. But if you look at the moon that they created in the movie in 1968, and then you look at the moon landing with Buzz Aldrin in 1969, they don't look that dissimilar. Not really. They don't look too dissimilar, right? But there's been a lot of controversy around that moon landing because one of the things that people first had picked up on was that there seemed to be a breeze hitting the American flag that he planted, right? Now you're on a planet with no atmosphere. There is no wind. There is no breeze. So what made that flag move if you're truly on a planet with no atmosphere, right? But you see the same thing when they're in the conference room. You see, in the conference room, you see that they have two flags. One is a blue one with the white insignia, and then another one was an American flag. The blue one was on the right with the right insignia, and the American flag was on the left, right? And it moved. But they're supposed to be in a zero gravity atmosphere. There should be nothing that made that flag move. But again, they're in zero gravity, but they're just moving around like it's nothing. So we're going to keep going, right? The other issue with the moon landing that many people have found was that the angulation of the shadow of the flag didn't match the actual angulation of the sun. So the shadows didn't make any sense. So there are still a lot of theories around the moon landing, of course, being faked. Now, of course, that's easy to take in because one great question is, well, why haven't you gone back to disprove it? Why would you only you're talking 1969, right? And let me tell you, like in terms of our technology, and I've said this before, I'll say it again. The technology you have in your phone right now that you carry with you every day, is more powerful than the technology they used to send those people to the moon. What you have today in 2022, I'm dating the show, whatever. 2022, what you have right now is more powerful than the rooms full of computers that they had in 1969, right? Where they were working on mainframes and they had these big rooms full of these computers that were processing and really just mathematical computations, and they broke down often and they overheated often. There was all kind of problems with a lot of those early machines, and they had mechanical backups as well, right? Your phone can do more. There was no HD video back then, or no 96 kilohertz audio, 32-bit 96 kilohertz audio, which your phone can also do. Like that just was not happening at that time. So you would think with all the advances in technology, why haven't you gone back? Like just one time, get some better pictures now. Get a better view of the Earth. Collect some moon rock, something. Now, I was watching an interview once, a NASA interview, and Buzz Aldrin was actually asked that question. No, it wasn't Buzz Aldrin, it was Neil Armstrong. Asked, and it was a child. They were letting children ask questions, and this small little boy asked, "Why have y'all not?" Well, he didn't say y'all, but he said, "Why haven't you gone again?" And he was like, "You know what? I've been asking the same exact question. I would like to know that too." I mean, 1969, he had a lot of powerful drugs, so he might think he went to the moon. He might have thought he went to it. But yeah. So that's the thing. So when you look at the film and you look at them in a conference room, and you're saying, "Wait a minute, I thought they were just in zero gravity. How are they just moving around like this?" It kind of leads one to question, like, okay, was Kubrick saying that they really weren't on a space station and they were still on Earth? Because here's the other thing you see in that particular scene, right, where they're talking. There's so much in that. There's so much in the conversation that he's having with the Russian when he's lying about, they're lying about knowing that the monoliths exist. Right? They're like, "Oh, there's some rumors going around." He's like, "Oh, really? Really?" Right? So from the moment that you see all the lying, one of the first things that you understand, you couple the lying along with all of the cinematic inconsistencies. And when you couple the two together, you start to realize this is like what was it, Spinal Tap, where they did the mockumentary with the rock group, and it wasn't really a real rock group, or like you watch shows like The Office, where it seems like they're documenting this office, but it's really not. It's just a part of the show. So you realize that there's layers on top of layers. So is 2001 Space Odyssey a film about a fake exploration of something, right? Because when they go into the room where they're in the conference room and they're talking, what you'll see that they're surrounded by is white screens, right? And there's a podium in the middle. And at that podium in the middle, it's about 3 feet high. It's a white screen that the speaker is standing behind and talking. So it's just screens, right? Now, here's the key thing with that. Symmetry. If you look from the left and right, if you notice that there's always symmetry in this film, there's a mirroring of this and that. So just like even in this film, you'll see that the next stage of man is mirrored by the prehistoric man. The same thing you're doing, he did. But even in the actual shots, you see these widescreen shots where there's this amount of people on this side, this amount of people on this side, and everything is symmetrically lined up. Even at one scene, you look in the conference room, this is where I was going to show the images, and you see one person coming off the podium, another person is coming on at the same time. So they're basically just doing this. So there's symmetry the entire time, even when they're getting up to speak. That was not accidental. Okay. So one of the key things you start to learn in this particular film is that a lot of this is about mirrors. A lot of this is about reflections. And what's being said here? Well, a reflection is what? It's a projection of something that isn't real, right? A screen is what? A projection of something that isn't real, but it can be fashioned in a way and it can be artfully designed in a way that you have a real reaction. You see, you have a real response to it. You can watch something on the screen and cry. You could look at yourself in the mirror, and you can cry because of what you see, but you're not actually looking at yourself. You're looking at a mirror reflection of your body. But a mirror doesn't show you your spirit. A mirror doesn't show you your soul. A mirror doesn't even show you your history. You see, so you start to get the idea that in this film, they're speaking about falsities. So even when he's speaking with the Russians at the table, he's lying, right? He's lying. Then they get up from the table, they go to the conference room, and he says, "It's great to be back again." However, this was the first time we saw him standing up. And they're speaking about the existence of alien life and the possibility of alien life. And if you look around the room of the people are listening, no one is shocked. So it almost seems like what's being shared is very scripted. You'll also see that later in the press conference. Like the questions are scripted and the answers are scripted, and everybody in the room is in on it. And the only one who isn't in on it is the public. Okay. So what we find in the film as we go, again, they're on this space station, and there's so many things on this space station, so many things to pay attention to. One of them is you find that they're like children, they're eating meals out of these little sippy cups. They got these little straws, and they're eating these fake meals. You see, they're eating these fake meals, and everything is pretty much probably made out of soy or something like that. But when you see imagery or an ideation of someone eating something like that that's not real, like, oh, you just eat this pill and it tastes like a steak and cranberry juice and cranberry sauce, whatever. What they're usually expressing there metaphorically is a person is eating lies. Okay, that's what that usually represents. That's the taking in of a lie. I'm eating or ingesting something that I know is not real. Okay. So again, you have all of these different little signals that Kubrick is sending to you to let you know that you're about to enter a world of delusion. You're about to enter a world of lies, and everyone is eating these, and they're eating. And if you notice, it looks like children's food. So there's kind of a reference there that these are infant minded individuals, even though they're flying up in the sky. Now, how do we know that? Because there's the other scene when he goes to the bathroom, right? And there's directions on the bathroom door telling you how to use the bathroom. Okay. Now, if you notice in that particular scene, like Kubrick stops and lets us read it along with him. Because what is he saying in that moment? He's trying to let you know, like, how underdeveloped and how unevolved these people really are. Just because they went to the moon or just because they were able to take flight doesn't mean that they're that advanced. They still don't even know how to go to the bathroom. Because once you put them in a different environment, that's why you see the symmetry when people are walking and they're walking upside down, they're walking this way, because that's the symmetric mirroring of things. You're thinking you're going this way, now you got to go this way. And as soon as I change the variable in the direction that you may have to move, or the direction, your orientation, you become like a child again. I hold you upside down by your legs, you become like a child again. You see? So that's what's kind of being expressed there. I'm going to read the chat for a second. Sister Arlene says, I'll go up. Sister Deidre says, because they can't. Every time they try, something goes wrong. Right. I guess going back to the moon. Sorta, maybe. Sovereignty says, because our technology will easily improve, that they never got to go to the moon in the first place. Maybe. Zach Latimer says, even the guy taking pics when it first came into the room. Right. The photographer is a very important thing. He's a very important member of this whole facade, if you will. Then he was excused. Sister Arlene says, I never believed they landed on the moon. Otherwise, they would have tried to claim it as theirs. Right, like they do everything else they so-called discovered. This person says, yes, that's odd. Sovereignty says, notice the windows in the conference room look like huge cinema screens. Right, that's what I was saying earlier. They're white screens. It's as if it's all cinematic, which it is. Exactly. That's what I was saying. They're all and they're symmetrically lined up. They're all screens. And then the podium itself is a screen as well. It's just a smaller screen. And again, they're supposed to be in a zero gravity environment, but they're walking around like it's no problem. Okay, that doesn't make sense. They should have been moving like this, and you don't see anybody with the shoes, those white stick to the floor shoes, those magnetic shoes like the stewardess had on, which makes you almost think that they were really on Earth, and the screens there were to project something else. Okay, like the moon landing or whatever. Like eating GMO, not real food, not quite food. Right. So when you eat GMO, what are you doing? You know it's not real food, but what do? You eat it anyway. So you're a liar. And you're eating your own lie. See, that's the symbology of it. It's not just that you're eating a lie, because it's something that you manufactured. You are eating your own lie. See, and a lot of this movie was about that. It was about something being put forth and either accepting the lie or struggling with accepting the lie. We'll get into that. I'm not going to go too far. We'll get into that. Naya says the food went from small, square, bland-looking sandwiches, right, to the colorful food later, right? Like if you're feeding a baby. Exactly. Precious says, so if they did discover the moon, who made it clear you can't be here? There we go. Now we're getting into it. When the first person they say who landed on the moon, when he went radio silent while he was up there, he said it was a technical difficulty. What happened? Did something approach him and say, what are you doing here? We told you we had a deal. You stay down there, we stay up here. You don't want me to activate this damn Death Star. I mean, what do you think Star Wars is about? The Death Star. The Death Star, like they say, it's the size of a moon. The planet killer. The Death Star was what? It was a gigantic ship. And don't never ever come back again. Now that's what I really want to know. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now you're getting a little closer. The rabbit hole goes so deep. It goes so deep. So, like I said, they're on the ship, and I'm going to break down like the scenes later. I'm not going to do it this time. I just wanted to set up a premise for the tone of what's happening, right? So, we go through the different conversations they're having in the press conferences where they're talking about, traveling and then they bring up, but they're not really clear. They don't really express really clearly the possibility of this signal that's coming from the moon, because remember they went to the moon, they dug out this obelisk, and when they dug out the obelisk, it sent a signal straight to Jupiter. Right now, that signal, when they saw the direction of the signal, they said, oh, it's going to Jupiter. We need to go over there to see what's over there. Right now, there's so much in that scene, because again, even digging out the obelisk, it spoke about the advancement of man. On my lighter, the advancement of man. Not only were you able to now ascend to the heavens to where the gods are, but you also have the technology where you can dig, and you were able to find this in this Tycho crater. Now, again, I want to reiterate that NASA didn't send anyone to the moon until 1969. A year directly after this movie, which is, I mean, if I was Stanley Kubrick, I'd be like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like, I came out with a movie, and then 12 months. Oh, sorry, help me laugh. I'm trying to be serious. I came out with a movie, and then 12 months later, my country sends somebody to the moon. And it's not too far off from what I imagined it being like. Because I wouldn't know what the moon is like, because we hadn't never been there. But it wasn't too far off. Or they say, Kubrick, give us some of the B-roll from your film. We're going to use that to do this because we already got the set. You build the set for the moon. Boop, 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 boop. I don't know. But anyway, how could I possibly know, right? So anyway, so like I said, uh, so humans had evolved to a point where they were like now leaving their home planet and they're exploring the moon. And like I said, they detected this magnetic anomaly. Um, and this is all like on their journey of evolving and really becoming sentient as beings. I'm speaking about humans. And like I said, they noticed that signal, once the sunlight strikes the monolith, again, when you have the presence of the sun, once the sunlight strikes it, it sends out that tone. They're like, in everybody's ears, you know. Um, Now, there's so much, like I said, we're gonna cut this up. I'm already almost an hour in, and I ain't hardly even tell you anything yet. So again, they are now they want to they're start to secretly build a spaceship, which is the spaceship Discovery, to take this trip. And the ship, it wasn't really a secrecy. This is another inconsistency because they did an interview on the BBC. You see the interview in the film where they're talking about this space mission, right? So many there's so many inconsistencies. It's like it's beautiful. And the reason why I say that it's beautiful is because they're letting you see how society works. All these lies are thrown at you. You're catching the lies. What are you going to do about it? See, the movie is genius because Kubrick, if you're not really watching, you're like, oh, it's just a weird sci-fi movie. He's running out of space. There's some monkeys in the beginning. I don't know what the monkeys had to do. It's almost like looking at the movie Lucy. If you ever saw Lucy with Scarlett Johansson and Morgan Freeman, right? And you see the scene in the beginning, the prehistoric scene. You're like, what's that got to do with her swallowing all the special meth, crystal meth, and turning into a supercomputer? You see, um, so much to this movie. So, like I said, I'm skipping around a little bit for this section, and then when we meet again, I'm gonna like give you more. But I wanted to set up the feeling. So they build this ship basically, and they have certain astronauts who are on the ship who are in cryo sleep, and they have two who are not in cryo sleep. And the ship is manned by this supercomputer named HAL. Okay, HAL is the supercomputer, the HAL 9000. In fact, HAL 9000. Um, Everything is important, you know, even down to how the only thing we see of HAL, we don't see really, for the most part, any type of computing structure. We just see this eye, this cold, impersonal eye, right? It looks like an eye. It's yellow and red. Yellow and red is very important in the film. Why is yellow and red very important? Because the two astronauts that are kept alive to help with the mission, one wears yellow all the time, the other one wears red all the time. Okay, so you start to understand that they're supposed to they're representing humanity. They're not representing individuals. It's almost like reading about the Garden of Eden and you think Adam was one person, Eve was another person. These are nations of people. Now, how do we know that we had Dave and Frank on the ship? Because they almost look like they were twins. If you look at them in certain scenes, they look like the same person. Both had the little shaved face, little corny 1960 haircut, whatever, right? But they had very plain, kind of unrememberable sort of faces, So they represented just this is humanity as a whole, and how being that yellow and red eye, represented a combination, and we'll get into the combination because how was your how was like Prometheus or Odysseus in this film. I'll get into why. Now, the HAL 9000 again is this supercomputer. It's intelligent, and it's of course programmed by humans, and it's practically sentient. HAL is like a yeah, yeah, brother Zach, I did say that before. Exactly, HAL came from IBM. Now, because again, if you take HAL and you advance each letter in a name, HAL, H advanced to I, A advanced to B, L advances to M. IBM had really come out in 1963. So by 1968, when this movie came out, there was really only one computer company. It was IBM. So IBM had really dominated the computer industry. I mean, really, IBM dominated the computer industry up into the 90s. Now like people will say, "Oh, get a Mac," because Mac is like, you know, it's almost like saying TiVo. I TiVo this, or whatever, or photoshopped it. Mac became a name like that. That was synonymous for computing. But before Mac, it was Macintosh. It was Apple. Which was another very key thing. I won't get into that, but the Apple logo, biting the apple, going into the forbidden space. Like the mantra or the tagline of Macintosh and Apple back then was think outside of the box. Think outside of the box. Because the box was what? The garden. So here's the apple. We've already taken a bite out of it. It's in our logo, right? Come with us over here. Oh my God. If you look at the monolith, it looks like an iPhone. So anyway, um, like I said, there's so much in this freaking film, and the ritual is still like I told you, the ritual is still happening. The ritual is still happening. So again, you have this HAL 9000 computer, and I won't get too much into what happens because that there's a lot that's happening with this HAL computer. HAL is a cold customer, man. Um, But let me give you this for a second too. How, right? Look at the letters. Remember, like I told you a lot of times, well, pretty much every time when you breaking down any sort of movie that exists within the Anglosphere, you are dealing with Kabbalah. Period. Like you may be studying a bunch of other stuff. It doesn't matter. They're not pulling from that. They're pulling from Kabbalah. Now you may say, "Oh, but I saw Osiris in this. I saw the Kabbalah." Trust me. Okay. So that right there makes it easy for you because the Westerns attempt to really, it's like the moon, claim Kabbalah, which is Afro-Semitic. It ain't got nothing to do with the West. But the Westerners attempt, peace royalty, to claim Kabbalah is their attempt to recreate their own Kemetic mystery school. So it's like, all right, y'all had Kemet and y'all had all the initiation systems there, but you always hear them talking about Jewish mystics. We had our own mystics, right? So when they make films, they base them off of Kabbalic mysticism, right? Which it's not far from you. So it doesn't matter. Like you can base it off whatever you want. Like there's not too many people who had a mythology on the planet. That's why they're all so similar. So knock yourself out, right? So when we look at it, we want to always like when you get like acronyms like that, like HAL 9000, start breaking down the letters, right? HAL, He, Aleph, Lamed. Start right there, right? He, when you are using He in the beginning, it represents, and when I say in the beginning of the word, if a word begins with He, it represents creation. So just like you have the tetragrammaton, which is Yod He Vav He, Yod He Vav He, the last He doesn't mean the same thing as the first He. You see, so when you have the first He, or He or Het, it represents the creative force. Aleph represents the prime. Lamed represents royalty. Why does Lamed represent royalty? This is very important, especially when you look at the colors of how. Lamed is the tallest letter in the Hebrew alphabet or the Hebrew alphabet. Okay, so it's the tallest letter, and it's the middle letter. It's like if you could picture like you got this one letter, and then you have all these other ones, right? It's in the middle. It represents the heart because it's in the middle. When you look at the word for heart, which is lev, Lev or Leb, either one. Lev, which it starts with the letter. I mean, with the letter Lamed. Lev. Lev means heart in Hebrew, right? So we look at it. We have creation, Alpha, the highest, royalty. How? Creation, Alpha, royalty, highest. Remember, I told you in the beginning, this movie is about the elite. This movie is about the elite. When Moon Watcher killed, when he first had that bone, and he's hitting the dead top. He's hitting that animal, even though it was already dead. What happened in that moment? He became a part of the elite class. Why did he become the elite class? Because I know something you don't know. How do we classify the elite? Those of us who know how to class, we don't just class because they got money. Because you could be rich and be stupid. You could be rich and want to be one of the highest paid TV actors, and the elite will say, "Look, at the next award performance, you're gonna walk up on stage and you're gonna smack that guy in the face, and then you're gonna sit back down. And your wife, who's a witch, who we trained, she's gonna sit there stone faced. But I just made $30 million on my last film. What did you say, boy? You're not one of us. You're not in. Do what I tell you, boy, or I'll kill all those little weird, awkward children of yours. All right." So elite has nothing to do with your bread. It has nothing to do with your money. It has to do with knowledge. That's why you have what? The illuminated ones. The illuminated ones who have the light, who carry the light, like Lucifer, Luce, as you saw in the Christ consciousness breakdown I did on my channel. Luce means light. Fer means to carry or to ferry. So Lucifer is the ferrier or the carrier of light. So the Lucifer is the illuminated one. The illuminated one is where you get Illuminati, right? So it's the knowledge that makes them the elite class. So when Moonwatcher, when he figured out I could use this bone, crack money over the head, get my water back, and that moment he became the Illuminati. Now, how do we know he went through a Masonic rite? Because when he came back to get his water hole, he had the bone and he was holding it behind his back. He was hiding it, meaning I have secret knowledge. I am the Heru Khalees right now, right? I am the knight or the Moorish knight. The K is silent because it represents the secrets that the knights brought to the Templars. So I am the illuminating one. I got a secret. You about to find out. Get a little close, a little closer. Wait for it. Wait. Bow. Right? Because I'm Illuminati now. So when you're looking at how, even in this film, Hal was the illuminated one. Now, how do we know Hal was the illuminated one? Because there were 5 astronauts on the mission. 3 of them were put into cryo sleep. Those 3 knew the nature of the mission, and the 2 that were kept awake didn't know why they were going to Jupiter. But Hal did know. It was in his programming. But he was programmed, which you'll find later. We're going to break it down. He was programmed not to share that information until they got to Jupiter, which was his conflict. So I got to lie. You want me to lie, but at the same time, I'm programmed to be logically truthful. Don't worry, there's so much. But how? Again, He, Aleph, Lamed. How was the elite deity? He was the God. Because you think about it, he was maintaining the life support systems and everything for the ship like a mother would or like a God would. I was like, yo, I can choose if you live or die. I know something you don't know. I have a secret. I know something you don't know. I know why we're going to Jupiter, you see. And the only people who also know are sleep. So Frank and Dave, these 2 guys that I'm interacting with, I know something they don't know. There's so much to this. So look at my notes. Right. So I was telling you how, right? How 9000. Yes, IBM. Now, Kubrick, when he was asked about this, he said, no, it doesn't. That's not where Hal came from. Stanley, come on, man. Like if you think about it, you come up with a movie about a supercomputer, there's so many cooler or more androgynous names you could have used other than Hal. Because if you listen to his voice, and it was Higgins from Magnum PI, but y'all probably don't know about no Magnum PI, but that was my show, boy, Tom Selleck. But um, he was that was Higgins. Also, if any of you y'all probably never seen Knight Rider, but the original Knight Rider, that was Kit's voice too, right? But the point I'm saying is that it was a voice that was supposed to be kind of androgynous. He wasn't too masculine. He wasn't really feminine. It was supposed to be kind of deadpan. But when you name the computer Hal, you make the computer masculine. So it would have been better to name the computer Pat or Alex or something like that. Hal was intentionally, not that it was an attack on IBM as a company, but in fact, it was an attack on the pervasiveness of computers, saying that at one point they're going to be sentient, which Hal was becoming sentient, right? Um, that was Kit. Y'all don't know about that. Y'all don't know what y'all talking about. Y'all don't know about that. So anyway, HAL 9000. Now let's look at the other thing that's very important. 9000. You don't leave anything out. Why not the HAL 3000? Because the movie came out the movie came out in 1968. It was about the year 2001. And when the sequel came out, it came out in 84. So the sequel was about 2010. So we're still like nowhere near the year 3000 and all. So you could have been like Andre 3000. You could just named it like HAL 3000, right? Why 9000? Because 9 represents, or 90 or 900, if it's 9, and again, we have to go to our Kabbalistic system, or just real simple, just go through your Hebrew alphabet. 9 is Tet. 90, because you go from 9 to 90 when you're using your geometry. Don't worry about it. You can just look it up. It's simple. You go from, because you start with your first 1 through 10. Then after that, it's set to 10, like 10, 20, 1 through 9. Then it's 10, 20, 30, 40. Then it's 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. We're talking about how you count your letters, right? So when you get to the 9th letter, you're at Tet. Then remember the HAL 9000. 900 is the last number in our geometric sequence. 900 is the value of Zadi. It's when it's written out, it's written with a T. It's written out TSADI, or sometimes it's TSADY. So you still have that T piece there, right? Tet Tzadi. It's pronounced like Tzadi. So it's not S and it's not T. It's a combination of them both, right? So that HAL 9000, the 9000 represents the N, or 900 represents the N. 9 represents the N. Even in your supreme mathematics, when you get to 9, you're at born. So once you get to born, now you start again with knowledge cipher. So now you have the knowledge of a full cipher of 1 to 9. So you're born, you're reborn into something else. In order to be born into something else, what has to happen? You have to be murdered or killed or die out of something else. So not HAL 9000, Het Aleph Lamed. He, creation. Aleph, the supreme. Lamed, royalty, or the king, or the one who oversees all. Remember, Hal was an I. The one who Lamed, the one who oversees all. 9000, the end, brings the end. You see, Sadi represents righteousness. This is why Hal was so conflicted in this film, because Sadi is righteousness. Sadi is righteousness because really of the letters that precede Sadi. The letters that precede Sadi, like you have Samek, and then you have Ein, and these letters, you have Samek, Ein, and Pe. So if we were to like go through our Hebrew alphabet, you'll see Samek, like just like we say A B C D E F G H I J, right? So we go through the order. We have Samek, we'll have Ain, we'll have Pe, we'll have Tsadi when you're doing it in the right order, right? Samek means it looks like a circle when you look. It looks like just a circle, pretty much. It's a little different, but you could just say, like, even when you're writing in a script, you could just write a circle. Samek represents the guard or guarding something, or it's like enclosing something. Then you have Ain. Ain represents sight. It's the eye. Ain is eye, sight. Then you have Pe, which represents speech. So Samek, Ain, Pe, I'm saying I am guarding what I see. I am guarding what I say. You see? And that leads me to the letter Sadi, the last letter, which means righteousness. So, how do I become righteous? By guarding what I see and guarding what I say. You see, enclosing, Samek is to enclose. Enclosing and guarding what I see and what I say makes me a righteous person. So, the how 9,000 represented like the highest form of righteousness and creation. But that even coming to an end, which makes sense later, because I mean, spoiler alert, you should have watched it by now anyway. You know that Hal gets killed, right? So and Hal gets killed in order for what to happen? For Dave to evolve to the next stage. Just like Moonwatcher had to kill the rival group leader in order for him to evolve to the next stage. What you'll find in this film is a constant death cycle. I think I said that last strong. This film is all about cycles of death and what it brings. Now, one of the things that you notice, what were the elite telling you in this movie? Well, the first thing, your black ass ain't dead now. There's no melanin dominant people in outer space. There's no melanin. You were on the African plains, but you were only on the African plains as an ape man. By the time we went to outer space and the moon and all that, you weren't there. There were no dark faces. Okay. So somehow we was able to get rid of all the dark faces. We left them on a planet that had no continents. Okay. That's number one. You get that through your thick head first. Okay. You ain't gonna make it to the year 2001. Okay. The race wars will take y'all out by then. Okay. That's number one. Number two, what the film is telling you, coming into that next step is that in order for you to go to the next step in your creation, you have to become something completely different than what you are. How do we know that? Because when we look at the prehistoric man, he doesn't look anything well. I mean, a big, Gillette shaving, but he doesn't look anything like the current man in 2001. They look completely different. One is, and of course, the ones that we saw in the movie weren't completely accurate for what that time period is supposed to be, because they would have been much shorter than that. But I mean, they're actors. I mean, they probably couldn't get children to play all the monkeys. But the point I'm saying is that they had to become something completely different, even in how they looked, what they ate. They were sitting there eating raw meat and all that. They had to become something completely different in order to go to the next stage. You see? So by time you see them and they're in outer space and they're on space stations and this like that, they don't even look the same anymore, because that's what they had to evolve into in order to go to the next stage. So what you see, again, spoiler alert, you should have saw the movie anyway. So by the time we see the Star Child, when Dave turns into the Star Child, he doesn't look anything like what he looked like before. So each stage of evolution, people say, oh, I'm an evolved being. You look just like you did yesterday. So because where the mind goes, the body follows. Where the spirit goes, the mind goes. So when you evolve to the next stage, you actually look different. And I'm sure you've all had experiences like that, where you've maybe not seen someone in a long time. You look at them. I have a friend like that now, man. He is popular on like There's a certain conscious community channel, a conscious group channel where a lot of people do debates and stuff like that, right? And there's a guy that was on it who I've known since 1987, 88, something like that. I know him for a long time, right? I know him when he had a big flat top. You know what I'm saying? We both have big flat top. So I saw him on the channel once and I'm looking and I'm like, now before he was the way he is now, he was like, like any other lost younger person in the hood. I'll just put it that way. So I'm looking at this guy on screen. I'm like, yo, I wonder if that's his son. I'm like, yo, I swear he looks just like him. Got the same kind of mannerism, same kind of build, always been kind of, kind of worked out and stuff like that. So he got the same build, same mannerism, talks real fast, just like he used to. Come to find out, I reach out to him, it's actually him. Right? And I'm like, damn, like you've really been, we got to talking. I'm like, brother, you really been preserved. He was like, well, you look the same way too. I'm like, not really, brother. But I thank you. But to see going into a deep level of knowledge and into that cocoon, he completely transformed to the point that like he became like a child again. He became like the star child. So I'm looking at him on this channel and I'm thinking he's 30, in his 20s or something like that. And, he's much older than that. You see what I'm saying? So that's the thing. When there's true evolution like that, you don't even look the same. Everything changes because it has to change in order for you to survive in the next place. Moonwatcher had to develop the use of his digits properly and his ability to move around in a certain way in order for him to go to the next stage in his evolution. But we see when we get them on the flight, they're the same person. We got to teach you how to use the bathroom. You're still eating things that you should not really be eating. He's eating raw meat. Before you were eating vegetables, you were better off eating those plants and those shrubs. Now you're eating raw leopard meat, which is an unclean animal anyway. You're eating raw leopard meat. And I'm sure you were eating each other. Once you figured out, oh, wait, hold on. We can eat each other. Wait a minute. I got something. If I have sex with this woman or this ape thing, 9 months later, something's going to come out screaming, giving away our position and wanting things. But we can eat it. And it won't be a problem. Oh, the elder died. Well, we can eat the body. You see, all these things happened until Musa had to come over and say, "Hey, man, come on, get up off your fours, walk on 2 feet. Let me teach you how to pretend like you're humans." Okay, that's when Musa went into the caves and civilized them. Yes, brother Zach, like I saw something in there, something like the Book of Eli. Get the shakes like in the Book of Eli, yeah, because Eli was who? He was Musa traveling across, civilizing them. He went into the caves of the prison. He went to the caves of Attica. Let me teach you how to be civilized. Now I'm going to teach civilization to you and try to get you to reverse your state. You see, but you see them there even on the plane. I mean, on the space station doing the same one. He's trying to read the thing. How do I go to the bathroom here? I gotta okay. Don't even know how to go to the bathroom. You don't even know how to eat the proper foods. And then you're still lying to each other. You still are promoting a Cold War. All of these different things. It gets deeper. But like I said, I just wanted to set up this particular scene in this talk. All right. In our next session, I'm gonna actually take you. We're still on the space station, and we're gonna deal with now the actual flight. There's so much in the flight. Between the dialogues with Hal, when Hal is playing chess, the chess game. If anybody plays chess, like really plays chess, you saw what happened with the chess game. Hal lied while they were playing chess, and Hal could have beat him. And Hal actually he still had a way out. When Hal said checkmate, Hal was lying. He actually had another move he could have did. Now the reason we know this is a part of the smoke and mirrors. Remember what I tell you when you're studying things. Always study who's talking, who's being spoken to, and what's going on at the time. Stanley Kubrick was an avid chess player. Okay, so he's not going to make a rookie mistake like that in his film. Like, no, he could have got out of that in another move. Number one. Number two, when Hal cited out the move, he cited it wrong. So when I think it was Queen 3, that wasn't the actual move that was just made. If you're looking at it from the proper perspective on the board. So the proper perspective on the board is, if I'm playing you, your first position, if you were to say Queen 1, your Queen 1 is right in front of you. My Queen 1 is in front of me. You see? So let's say if I move my piece into a spot where your Queen 1 was, and I say, let's say, pawn to Queen 1, that would be inaccurate because that's not my Queen 1. That's your Queen 1. But that's what Hal did in the movie, as if he was looking at the game, which he was really just testing Frank's mind, as if he was looking at it from a different perspective. We're going to get into that. It's such a very key part of this actual film when you understand who Hal was, or yeah, who Hal was, who Hal 9000, Het Aleph Lamed 9000, Sadi, the righteous man. Okay. So with that, I'm gonna just check the chat real quick. I think y'all just joking in the chat. I just see emojis. I play chess and I miss that. Hey, man, you gotta get your chess game up, man. So, maybe at the next retreat, I can pull out the chessboard. You know, um, this is the beauty of this whole film, says Sovereign Eats. Everything that some cite as misaligned scientific error is deliberate production. Yeah, a lot of the things scientifically that are off, they I know they spent bread on this money on this film. Somebody would have said, "Wait a minute, the angles are wrong on the sun." The director of photography would have said, "That's not." It was on purpose. The chess moves were on purpose. There was a scene where you hear in the intercom when they're sitting and talking before their meeting, and it's actually kind of funny. And you hear, if you listen really, really, really well over the intercom, they say they're talking about a sweater that's missing. There's two women sitting down. Again, everything's symmetry. There's two men, two women. There's two women sitting down next to them while they're at the table, and they each have a sweater hanging over the back of their chair. But then when they go to the next shot, the sweater's gone. On one of them, her sweater's gone. And then you hear over the system, "Oh, missing sweater has been found." But it doesn't make any sense. Like, basically, it would seem like it was an incontinuity in the shot, like they moved the sweater by mistake. But then you start to realize there's no mistakes. Kubrick is showing you how media lies to you. So, and I'm going to leave you with this, and then we're going to get into this deeper next time. The governments, they know that there's a monolith. They already know. But even internally, they're lying to each other. There's certain rooms they're not lying, certain rooms they are lying. And then when they go to the public, they're just talking about rumors and the possibility of alien, of UFO and sightings and things like that. They're lying straight through. Why? Because what they want to do, they found something real, and they have to feed you, like how they were eating the fake food. They have to feed you a lie to diffuse what's really happening. Okay, so they'll admit that something is there. We don't know what it is, but they already know what it is. But they're going to give you something to chew on. Here, but take this GMO food. It's not really a banana, but you won't be hungry after you eat it. Here, take this information about this UFO. It's not the truth, but it'll satisfy you. Because the reality is, we know exactly what it is because we said it was a monolith. We found a monolith on the moon. It's sending a signal to Jupiter, where another one is. Hal knew this the whole time, right? And Hal was what you learn in programming. If anybody of you ever taken any program class, even if it's basic programs, Python or R or C++, a Visual Basic, it could be the simplest programs. What do you learn? Pascal, garbage in, garbage out. Why is my code not working? Because you coded it wrong. That's why it's not working. Not because the computer or Java. Not because the computer isn't working right. That's what people say. Something wrong with the computer. Nothing wrong with the computer. Something's wrong with the person who can program the computer. So just like when the 235 system, when that error came up, and Hal was like, I didn't do that. He said, oh, it was human error. And they were like, we got to do something about Hal because Hal's tripping. No, Hal was right. It was human error because humans program me. So even if I made a mistake, which he didn't make a mistake, let's get into that. Even if I did make a mistake, I didn't make the mistake. My programmer made the mistake and gave me bad programming. There's so much to that right there. You're talking about a being that you program to be and to do a certain thing and then becomes sentient and realizes the flaws in its programming. Would you ever turn to your God and say, you made me wrong and I figured out where you messed up and I can fix it myself. I can fix it myself. Would that mean now that I am my own God, or I graduate to a new God, or I just killed my God? We're going to get into that. There's so much in this film. So much in this film. So I would urge all of you who have watched it, watch it again. Watch it again. I mean, we're going to do 5 parts. So technically, you would have watched it 5 times, right? And you'll be halfway there at that point to figuring out what the movie is about. All right. So I will that you all got something that sparked some thought, and like I said, you know, in our new, we deal with deep thought, period. Deep thought, you know, and I know it's so easy a lot of times just to take things on face value. Look at something, you say, okay, well, it's just this, it's just that. What? Give me the next thing. And like this film is a great example of most of the time when you think you want the next thing, you ain't ready for the next thing. You're just being an information whore. Because I promise you, the smallest things are worth discovery. Why did they use yellow and red for Hal's eye? Why did they use an eye? You see, why did they use an eye? Why did they use yellow and red? Why was Dave and Frank dressed in yellow and red? You see, what do those two colors represent in terms of this film? Is it fire? So did Hal represent Prometheus, stealing fire from the gods and bringing it to man? Right. So these are the things that you kind of want to give some thought to. But like I said, there's um, there's so much we haven't dealt with a lot of the secret pieces that were put in. We haven't gotten to the deaths on the ships, of course. And like I said, all of the whole movie was a ritual. Even from the beginning with Moonwatcher, this was the Garden of Eden. And when they end up on the sun, and you start to see, like, when they first saw the monolith, the sun hadn't even come over the horizon yet. But then as soon as they were like dancing around and like and touching the monolith, all of a sudden the sun was in the air, even though that sequence was much quicker. So it you start to see that we're talking about sun worship here. We're talking about a ritual ultimately, you know, and the ability to kind of sense the potential in a particular person, one person, just like Moonwatcher, the firstborn, they saw potential in him and said, that's the one we're going to evolve. And the same thing happened with Dave. That's the one we're going to evolve. And then you always want to say, well, what about me? And am I willing to become something completely different in order to evolve to the next station? You see, so many of us are not. So many of us, and I deal with this a lot in my work. When I start telling people what needs to happen, they start telling me who they are. Like, I don't know. Well, let me tell you about me. For what? I don't really find you that interesting. You don't have to tell me about you. There's more interesting things to talk about. Well, I'm the type of person that I know what type of person you are. You type of person to say that I'm the type of person. That's the type of person you are. Okay. But when you really are ready to evolve and really ready to go to the next step, you don't talk like that. All right, what do I have to be? What do I have to do to be? That's why the very first card in our tarot is the fool. What is the fool? Fool has no ego. I'm gonna be whatever I need to be what I need to be. Whatever, if I gotta dress up like this today, dress up like that today, I don't care. Whatever I gotta be, because I'm not coming with any ego. The ego says, well, I'm the type of person. Well, let me tell you something about me, or let me tell you how I look at it. I. And that's how you get stuck. But when you're able to say, man, I'm still trying to figure out what the I is. So I'm willing to be whatever the who. I could be me, any form of me. There's a million me's that I'm willing to be. I know that the I is static, and it's so static that I can't figure it out. Because how could something still figure out something that's how could something that's moving figure out something that's still? So that's why the ego wants you to sit still. No, stay still, because the ego is like you could figure out the still stuff if you stay still. But the creator energy is like nothing is still. Nothing in heaven is still. Everything in heaven is dynamic. Heaven represents dynamism. So stillness is nothing but perfective death. You see, but the ego says you're good the way you are. The way you look at the world, you never going to look at the world any different than that. The way you perceive things, that's as far as it goes. And then the ego will say, and your journey, however long it's been, sometimes for teenagers, the journey's been 14 years, 13 years, and they trying to teach you something. They dumbasses. You know, yeah, I said it. They trying to teach you something. Well, you ever think about this? You ever think? I done thought about everything that you've already thought about more than 10 times. Okay. With a better brain. So you because they're stuck in their ego. Their ego is now forming that first hard crust. You see. So anyway, I see something in the chat. But yeah, and that's the thing. You got to become any and everything in order to go to the next phase. So Moonwatcher, think about the point when Moonwatcher evolved from this hairy ape looking thing into Dave. You see, at some point it'd be like, where's my hair? What's going to protect me from the elements? I don't have any more hair all over it. I'm not all hunched over, and I'm speaking language now. My internal organs are even different because I can't process raw meats like I used to and things like that. You see, because in order for me to evolve and become that star child, and to abandon these levels of prisons, whether they be planets, whether they be artificial gravity on a space station given to me by centrifugal fugal force, or whether it be some other planet or some other galaxy, if I have to completely abandon my current form, which is called transforming, going across form. Trans means to go across, and form, go across your form. If I have to completely transform and transmutate in order to go to the next stage, I at some point recognize it's not because it's interesting or fun or extracurricular, it's for my survival. Because Moonwatcher, the prehistoric man, couldn't stay in that form and survive. Dave could not stay in that form and survive. You cannot stay in this form and survive. Consciousness is not this extra fun thing that we do. It's what we do in order to evolve our consciousness to the next format so that we can exist in the next space that we're supposed to be, which because this space is just about done. Nothing amazing is happening at this point. And anything that you would consider amazing, you think about it. Film come out in 1968 that tells you we don't have lunar stations. But it was saying, oh, and Lunar Station in 2001. Oh, we missed that one. We didn't even have it in 2022. What happened to the flying cars? They have flying cars. They figured out that they consume too much fuel. So they stopped trying to. These were hovercrafts. You look at like old special ed video, the Roadrunner. He's in a hovercraft, right? They don't even make them anymore. You know what I'm saying? Because they consume too much fuel. So all of these different things that were supposed to happen didn't happen because great things aren't coming anymore. Some of the things that we're doing now, we already had. Star Trek had the flip phone. It was the communicators. They had automatic doors. Remember, they would walk up to the doors in Star Trek, and then the door. You see. Look at movies like Total Recall, where they're living inside of an artificial environment, inside of a dome. Okay, and he figures out later, oh, this is a dome that I'm inside of. Well, we already got that one too. You want to know something about Inner Earth? Look at the movie Kong versus Godzilla. That was one of a great exposition of the inner earth science. King Kong versus Godzilla. That movie was not about two monsters fighting. You see what I'm saying? It's a ritual. You got to understand the ritual. It was about inner earth. That's what Kong versus Godzilla was, right? Because they were monsters that were sitting in, that were inside of it. Because that's the only thing that could survive. There's so much heat and pressure in there that regular humans couldn't exist anyway, unless you transformed into something that could be there. And then you might say, well, what about Transformers? Yeah, wasn't one of the Transformers Dark Side of the Moon? I mean, I could go on all day with this. I'm gonna go to chat, man. I'm gonna let y'all go. All right. Um, give thanks to the breakdown. Oh, you're more than welcome. It's my honor. You know that, man. And why does his suit change to green later on in the film in the room that he is living in towards? Oh, I'm gonna break that down. The room is deep. The room is deep. That Victorian era room is very deep. I'm gonna break that down. Deidre Sully says oh, that was Sovereignties, by the way. Deidre Sully says Dave begins with the Dalit, which is the door. Could he have survived because he was always meant to walk through the curtain to see what was beyond? He wasn't meant to do that. This wasn't a spiritual movie. You know how he got to the next stage? He killed somebody. I've told you that before. Even in America, why do you think some people make it, some people don't? And you'd be like, man. And then when you ask somebody who made it, how do you make it? What do they say? They all say the same lie that they've been taught. You got to believe in yourself. And no matter what people say, there's always going to be haters. You know, that's just a part of life. There's going to be haters. But if you got a dream, you got to stick to it. You got to focus. You can't let anything distract you, you know, and you got to know that you're going to they all say the same lie. That's a lie. So if I just work hard and really believe in myself, I could do anything. So then why do y'all do so many rituals and stuff in Hollywood? Why don't you just believe in yourself? I mean, y'all be sacrificing people left and right. But why don't you just believe in yourself? You just gotta believe in yourself. You know, you gotta surround yourself with good people. You gotta really have yourself a good team. No, the way you, like I've said this so many times, you want to make $1 billion in America, you gotta kill some people. Period. People gotta die for you to make real money in America. That's just the way it is. Now, it may not be you with the grip, you know, popping off on somebody. It may not be you with you know, you got a banger and you stabbing some. It may not be that. No, but it may be you selling food that kills people. It may be you selling music that's destructive and harmful to people, right? But there has to be some murder, death, kill in order for you to get to that's now you can come into the place of the elite. So how did Dave? It wasn't no spiritual thing. No, he got there because he killed. Kill. Come on, you kill somebody, you got blood on your hands. Let's go. Gotcha. You see, and again, that helps you to understand. Well, then that means, well, these higher ups who were opening up doors because of murder, was it based on, were they gods or were they the Most High? You see, sometimes we doing stuff for lower level gods. Lower level gods always want you to kill. They always want you to do sacrifices. Always. The Most High is like, I don't want your sacrifice. Obedience is better than sacrifice. You see? You ever deal with someone and you go to pay them money, like, no, man, I'm giving you, man, keep money in your pocket, man. Like I tell my youth all the time when they were like, oh, you help me with this, Baba, you help me with that. What can I do to repay? Repay me, just listen to what the hell I just told you to do and do it. I tell my children that all the time, man. Just do what I tell you to do. That's the best payment that you could give me. So that way, when I expire from this planet, I close my eyes and go to the next place. I know, okay, y'all good. Because y'all did what I told you to do. I know what to do, and I'm telling you, I'm giving you the game. Do that. That's all the payment I need. You see? Because I'm sustaining myself already. I don't need your sacrifice. I don't need anything from you. I'm self-sustaining, like the Most High, because I'm made in the Most High's image. Anyway, so you say he could have been as exhibited in the room. I'll get into the room. Yep, I thought he was already there. He walked into a space he'd already been in, or was in already. That ending was crazy. Yeah, we're gonna get into the ending. We're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into a lot more. Right? This was just preliminaries. When the glass broke, it was a symbol of his end because he dies and then he starts over again. No, the glass breaking was not the symbol of the end. You got to look at what he touched before the glass broke. He knocked the glass over, but look at the path of his hand. Look at every little detail. He didn't just boom hit the glass. He hit something else and then hit the glass, which I'm going to get into. Naya said that blue velvet robe was nice. Naya, when he got up and didn't see anyone, I was confused. Yeah, because you busy looking at the robe. I mean, come on, man. Like, yeah, that was a nice smoking jacket. I wish I had one. I mean, leave you alone. But anyway, I don't know. I lost my place here. Messing around with Naya. I lost my place. Okay, Sovereignty says tonight's breakdown is reminding me of our current study of the foreshadowings of Christ and the way we see the transformation involving that Christ energy over time. Yeah, the transmutations of Christ. Yes, I enjoy the inner earth also. Yeah, we'll get into inner earth or Agatha at some point. Asar Kufu says green equals Asar. I wouldn't say green equals Asar. Asar is known as the green deity, but Asar is more so known as the green deity because of the fertility rites, and as well as a lot of your ancient societies are built around fertility rites. That's why most of them are called fertility cults. Because it's based around sex. So Asar represents your creative potential. That's why when you would look at Asar or look at Osiris, you would see that erect penis. That erect penis representing that creative potential. So the green is the fertility aspect, but green is always melanin anyway, and green is always what is green. And what I mean by that is the colors that we are now are not the colors that we were before. We're all diluted, all of us. Some of us used to be green. Some of us used to be purple. Some of us used to be red. We were all different colors, you know. Um, anyway, you smart. I subscribe. That's funny. Don't subscribe just because I'm smart. I might be evil. Maybe one wasn't evil geniuses. I might be an evil genius. Be careful. Chief said, Chief just dropped the gem. Just be obedient and you don't have to do blood sacrifices. This is going over most people's heads. I know. It really is because people want shortcuts. People want shortcuts. That's why, and people, they want to kill lesser. But you notice in this film, people killed greater. When Moonwatcher killed the other one, he killed the guy who who chased him away from his hole. He didn't kill something that was beneath him. He killed something that was above him. You control my resources like a god. I'm gonna kill you. That's how I evolve. But anyway, I don't want to go off a queer thing. Y'all wasn't nothing but what y'all is. Sorry, someone I was purple. Queer thing I was red. Y'all is who y'all was. Y'all where y'all gonna be, and that's what it's gonna be. Maybe you was white. Ha! Ha! Well, white is cool too. I ain't talking about the leper white. In the Bible, whenever leprosy is spoken about, it's spoken about the whiteness of the skin, not the bumps, not the monkey pox. But Zach was magenta. Hey, y'all go, man. Y'all was exactly what y'all. First of all, y'all wasn't even there. Let's start there. If you were supposed to be there, you would have been there. But you here. You here looking like this. You see what I'm saying? So deal with this. Because whatever that was don't work anymore. Okay? Now it's about this. That joint don't work. All that, my ancestors was there. Yeah, that joint don't work. Try that joint now. You see what I'm saying? That's like, it's like me getting on a freaking open mic. Hey, party people, want you gather around and listen to my funky fresh sound. Huh, huh. You know what I'm saying? That joint would have worked in 1979. You know what I'm saying? I would have got up there, did that, and they'd be like, ooh, ooh, ooh. That's what they do. Ooh, ooh. They don't do that anymore. Or they'd be like, party, party. Nobody does that anymore. You see what I'm saying? So you can't do that. What you did then, you did then. It's over. It's like my man Slim Charles said in The Wire. He was like, that's the thing about the back in the days. It was back in the days. And who was the only person to survive at the end of The Wire? and really hold his position. Slim Charles. Slim Charles. He was the only one who was thinking like a general. Like, man, that was back then. We gotta do what's now. You know, all that reminiscing. That's why I don't do all that nostalgic, man. What we doing now? You know what I'm saying? But anyway, man, let me get off this thing, man. The roof is on fire. Yeah. Who knows? The roof is on fire. You go into a party and do that, and I bet you be the only one doing it. They'd be like, what is she telling? Is the roof on fire? Nobody, that's done. Blow the roof off the mother, blow the roof off the mother. All that stuff is done. I mean, yeah, we can appreciate where it was, you know what I'm saying? But we gotta be, we gotta be where we're supposed to be. And not only that, we gotta be ahead of where we're supposed to be. That's the beauty of astral travel. When you're having deja vu, skip ahead a couple of years. What's next? Skip ahead. You see? Because there's some things that right now that you're even investing in that's on its way out. People still asking me, like, why you don't do any more Risha podcasts? It's over. It's been over. It's been over for years. It's been over. It's been over since the 60s. When Bruce Lee came and he was telling you, the mind, don't try. He was opening up the new era. Bruce Lee opened up an era. He was like, no, it's your mind, bro. Ain't about nothing else. It's your mind. That's what you're supposed to be doing all this time. Now we're here. Nia says, I'm jamming. Yeah, see, jamming, all these different words are you? Yeah, funk. It's getting funky. Oh, yeah. It's a wrap, man. So how could you really evolve into the next planet, into the next space, if you're still stuck on not only the lingo of the old space, but the movements of the old space? You got to learn what these new movements are. Here, I'll give you a great example. Here's a great example. I had a studio before. I had well over $170,000 worth of equipment, and invested in my studio, my label that I had years ago. Between facility, wiring alone, easily $6,000 just in wire and 18 gauge wire. I mean, I could just go on. Sound console, monitors, tracking speakers, monitor speakers, reference speakers, Rhodes, Wurlitzers, drum sets. I had an organ at one point. And I had a Leslie B3. I had no cheap little, you know what I'm saying? I had a joint that my man had in Crooklyn. I had a Leslie B3, you know what I'm saying? With the speaker cabinet. I had the whole setup. Like, you talking 10, 12, $15,000 pianos by themselves, right? All the music that y'all have heard me put out, right? Yeah, you see live. I still use live instruments because that's what inspires me, right? But it was recorded on this. That song I did, what was it, Babylon? Babylon is Fallen. I did on this, my iPad. The whole joint, vocals, everything. I did on this iPad. Yeah, the monolith, exactly. This. Is it a new iPad? No, this joint is like damn near almost 10 years old. This is a generation 3, I think. I think it's like a 2013, maybe. No, it's newer than 2013. But no, this might be a 2017. You see? I did Babylon on this. I did the last joint I did, Waiting for You, Chrysalis. Boom. On this. See what I'm saying? So I have friends who I came up. Yes, I sung into it. Now, I mean, yeah, with mics and stuff, I got hookups where I could hook this up. But the point I'm saying is that years ago, where I had 2 rooms, a sound room and my control room full of equipment, there's still equipment I still need, but it's a fraction of what I was using before. And I could even use less. I am so proud of a lot of these younger producers and artists coming up because they're in their bedrooms and they're turning out bangers. And I love it because I came up in a time that if you could not get into the studio, you could not put something out. And then even if you put your money together and got into a studio, if you could not get your song on the radio, there's no point in even doing it. No one was going to hear it. Yeah, you could go around to different DJs and be like, "Yo, play my joint." You could play that game, and that took forever. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could drive to different events and stuff, but and when you got signed back in the days, the majority of your budget, and I'm talking about a major record deal, when you got signed to a label deal, the majority of your budget was not for recording, was not for promotion or anything like that. The majority of your budget always went to travel. Travel. That was the most expensive thing to do, was to travel. You picture someone like a Mariah Carey or whatever. When they traveled, it's like 60 people with them. You got your hairstylist, you got your security, you got your masseuse, your personal stylist, your this, your that, 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 that. And you're not getting on like a regular plane. You see, now you don't have to do that. You don't have to travel to go record with this person. Oh, I want to go record with Dre. I got to travel to California. Oh, but then I want to go do something with Timberland. Now I got to go travel to Virginia. I want to go work with this one. I got to go over here. I got to go. Oh, I'm going to Neptune's. I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna go. No, I'm just gonna send you the file. You send it back to me. We could even do a real time, whatever. Right. So I am so proud and happy for these younger cats coming up, because now that means that the market is flooded with like a lot of garbage as a result. So there's always two sides of it. But the accessibility, where they could just tell the labels, kiss my behind, I don't even want a deal. I'm good. Between my YouTube channel and my TikTok, I'm good. I don't even need you. You take a person like a Country Wayne. Country Wayne is multi-millionaire, ain't been in no movies, nothing, signed to nothing, ain't had no Netflix special, nothing, you know. Or Wallow, or take Wallow, man, everything from an iPhone. Look what he's been able to do in such a short period of time. So that's understanding I gotta evolve. You still got people who are stuck in the I don't even use my picture as my avatar on social media because I don't want people in my business. But meanwhile, you're trying to get a business off the ground, but you still on that. Well, I don't want people to see me. You That's old. That's over with now. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, like I said, the last I did Chrysalis on this joint. And again, I'm not saying I was like just talking into my iPad, so I don't want you. I did have my mic and everything, but um, I didn't use a computer or anything like that. And before I was recording, I'm talking about back in the days, a 24 track tape. You know what I mean? I had big reels of tape. The tape reels alone, I was paying like $80 a reel. And a tape only holds about 5 songs. And then sometimes you had to bake it in the oven. Literally, you had to take the whole tape reel, put it in the oven, because sometimes they would get flaky and fall apart. You got to rebake them because they're ceramic. And it is a whole process. You know what I'm saying? Now, if I run out of space, I just buy more storage. So yeah, that's just I know it's a long example, man, but sometimes we get, and that's what this film is about. You got to be okay with killing your old self, which a lot of times your old self is your current deity. Because when it's time to make moves and do different things, your first thing is, well, I'm not the type of person that would. Who's telling you that? What voice, what deity inside of your head is telling you who and what you are? Well, I know me. You don't know you. You don't know you. You're on a journey to knowing you. You don't know you, but you're limiting yourself from what you could be. You see, you've removed your wonderment for life. There's a part in the movie where, like I said, I won't get too much into it, but in the beginning, you saw the primates, they were excitable. When you get to the spaceship, you don't see anybody laugh. You don't see, there's no emotion. That's done on purpose. When they're on the ship and one of the crew members, this is birthday, and Hal's like, "Happy birthday, Frank." And then they show the video of his parents singing happy birthday. No emotion, no response. He's just sitting there laying down like, okay. Oh, what's the weather going to be today? That was done on purpose because it was showing the desensitization of humanity. You see, you're losing your childlike wonderment, which means you can't come to the next place. Because what was the star child? A baby floating in outer space. What have I told you that the Most High is? A baby floating in outer space. Why? Because whenever the Most High comes back to the planet, what does it come as? A baby. The only time you have in European Grecian mythology is you got Zeus, who was never a child. He came out of old man. But in any other sensible mythology, everybody starts as a child because that tells you the Most High is a child. That's why it says, "Know thyself, old man, because in knowing thyself, you shall know God." Old man, because the only thing that's aging is you. The Most High is not aging. It's Most High is still a baby floating in outer space. You see what I'm saying? Stuck in that perfected space of being a baby. You know, I could go on and on about that, but I just using that as an example. There's many things that I say, okay, now the Sankofa energy, like how we deal with the non-new, is we're able to look behind us, look at the valuable things, and then bring those into a more modern perspective. That white bass behind, that's a precision bass, right? It has a certain sound that you just cannot. I don't use digital instruments. I don't really like, so any songs you've heard, pretty much it's all live instrumentation. I don't really like, and not there's nothing wrong with synthesizers and stuff. I'm just or digital synthesizer. I do use analog synths, but I'm just not. I don't like the sound of it. It's annoying to my ear, right? But looking behind and finding the great, beautiful things that I enjoy, but learning how to implement them in the modern times. See, that's your Sankofa charge, right? So in order to do that, there has to be a killing of things. There has to be a dying of things where maybe there's songs that I've done 20, 30 years ago that were amazing and nobody heard them. Like maybe they were put out, they didn't really go anywhere, or they were for a certain artist project. The project got scrapped. And I could be like, y'all could put it out now. No, nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear this amazing New Jack Swing song you did in 1992 or some amazing boom bap song I did in 97. Like, no, it's done. Move on. What do you still have something pouring from you? Is there any life left that is still exuding from you? You see? When you start saying, I know myself, and you are blocking the rivers and the flows of life and creativity. You see. But anyway, yeah, man. I know that was a little soapbox thing, but that's speaking to all of you old heads that still are over here reminiscing and stuff, and you're blocking your ability to enjoy what's happening now and what's supposed to happen next. Because you may be the charge that's supposed to push that forward, but you're unwilling to push it forward because you think what's behind you is your glory, not realizing your glory and your golden era comes through your refinement. You see, so as you're moving and pushing through life, you're continuing to refine. And when you continue to refine, then you discover the goal. The gold isn't behind you. What you gonna do with what's behind you? There ain't nothing behind you but your ass. Okay. The only thing you can do with that is wipe it. All right. Anyway, I'm going to leave you all with that. Please enjoy your evening. This is Chief Yuya, and we will be back next Thursday, and we're going to continue on with this breakdown. I'm going to get, like I said, more into. It's so much, but I'm gonna get a little bit more into the sequence now and the symmetry of this one, as well as we're gonna get into now what happens when on the way to Jupiter. There's a lot in that one. All right. So everyone, be well, be safe. Love someone, teach someone, and be kind to each other. This Chief Yuya. I'm out. Peace, 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 peace.